The next episodes of Thriving Construction come straight from Future Build. Huge thanks to EcoCocon. The space was great for chats, acoustics, and even better well-being.
It would also be great to work in
a space like this.
You know, a space like this
Well,
would be great.
That's a big side of the business for us, is the health aspects. So we've had a lot of customers who've basically been mold damage or health, asthmatic or respiratory diseases. So much so from the houses they have been living in that even their mental state is not good, hasn't been good. A good example is a lady I worked with for many years, and she had to move house after house, and her kids were sick and she was sick, and every building they went into, they were like, really mentally kind of, oh, there's mold here, we can't be in here, and it's just captured them so much that they kept moving around. And she inherited some money and she built one of these. Haven't heard from her since. But she had an impact on, an input the whole way through on which materials were being used in the house. And we had a building company once, I did many years ago, and we only built natural homes. And we built her house for her. Honestly, haven't heard from her since. Nothing. And they're perfect now. The kids have everything's cleared up mentally and physically. So sound-wise, health-wise, you're working with materials that they're grounding. You sit, as you said yourself, you sit inside in a house like this and you're grounded. Kids get grounded. Schools built with this. The kids are grounded and you can actually see it. It's really, really impressive, And that's not a sales pitch. That's reality. That's human research done. It's like it's the human impact of it. So, and then you have all the science research that's been done on these buildings. But I think the most important one is the human one. I've seen it many, many times. And it's not just with straw, it's with most natural materials, clays, limes, anything that's coming from the earth makes sense. It's a grounding product. And I've been building houses in Scandinavia for 20 years, and everything I've done is always based around natural materials. That's how I found EcoCocon 13 years ago. We were straw bale builders, and we found EcoCocon and went, well, this makes it much, much easier, and it does. And I just worked with log buildings, wood buildings, everything, and restoration projects. And even with an old log building, 200, 400 years old, you walk in, it's the same feeling as this. It's calm. It's just got that grounding feeling. And for me, that was always the pull. I want to work in buildings that doesn't have this impact or this pull. Later on came all of the climate stuff and, energy efficiency and all. And it just so happens that these materials cover all of that aspect also. So for me, when I started, it was always around the health of the materials, the health of the, how good they were for the environment, how good they were for the inhabitants, and how nice they are to work with. For a builder to work with, it's just fun, So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
What are some of the misconceptions that people have when it comes to this type of structure, especially things being made from straw? And
well, I would say it stems back a little bit to the three little pigs, That's the first misconception, and I'm not sure if that was a propaganda done a long time ago by the brick and concrete industry, let's bring out this story, but it was around a little bit before that. But yeah, I mean, there are the things, the simple ones for today, the simple ones, I think, for, the everyday customer is things like mice and rodents. Is it going to mold? How do we know it's not going to fail in some way? What's the fire resistance? Surely it's going to burn, and then you have to, you can explain it all very simply. I mean, they have found straw in the pyramids. They have found straw in buildings 4,000 years ago. So, it's been around as a building material. It's been mixed with clay for a long time as a fiber in the pyramids, in these buildings. But realistically, the oldest house in Europe today is in France. It's built in Montargis, just outside Paris. It's still being used today, actually, by the Straw Bale Association of France now. They took it over many years ago when it was there was nobody using it. And they've opened the walls on that. It's almost 110 years old now. And it's like the straw on the walls you see here behind you. Really perfect, still golden, no smells of it,
So the smell of the structure is still a pleasant smell.
Yeah, still the same.
As opposed to like a pungent, dampy kind of moldy.
Still the same. And that's the key. I mean, the oldest buildings we know today with straw still being lived in are in Nebraska, and they're roughly about 140 to 160 years old. It's not 100% sure with some of them when they were built. And they came from when the railway lines were being built in the US. They were waiting for the railway lines to come to Nebraska with the wood to build the houses. Winter was coming. The guys taking in the straw and doing the harvesting, they basically needed a house. They said, heck it, we'd just take the big jumbo bales, and they built load-bearing straw houses. No wood. Roof structure, no.
So there's no wood supporting like you have the structures here?
It's one of the older methods. It's called the Nebraska method. It's literally a load-bearing straw bale structure, like Barbara Jones has done many of them here in the UK. And then you came along the hybrid versions using wood or using other materials and infilling it with straw. And that's where EcoCocon basically came from. Demantas Surkis was his name. He was the guy who invented it in Lithuania 17 years ago. And he basically was a straw bale builder. But he had the idea, like many of us, I started thinking about it that when I found EcoCocon, we were actually thinking of making our own straw elements. And then we found EcoCocon and thought, what's the point in reinventing the wheel? Let's run with what these guys have in window. But the Mantis kind of came up with the idea of making straw walls in elements form so that it could become faster, because he had quite many houses to do with straw bales and it takes so long, and you're dependent on the weather all the time. So this was a kind of an experiment 17 years ago that quickly kind of caught on in that there was a few people who went, oh, it's a great idea. Let's put some investment into this and let's try to build it up. And they made a small factory, which became a slightly bigger factory. And then I think that's about where I joined in the Finnish markets. We asked them for some certifications that they had done for straw bale buildings that we were doing in Finland. And they said, well, we're coming to Finland to a fair like Future Build, Finnish version, and said, can you join us on the fair? And we joined them, and a couple of customers we had who were doing straw bale walls, straw bale houses, saw this and went, hey, we'll do this. It's modular, it's simple, it's faster, it's easier to do. Made more sense. And it took off from there. So I joined EcoCocon then as a representative in Finland. They asked me, because I spoke Swedish, they asked, can I look after the Swedish market if they get some stuff there? But they were just beginning to expand to markets. They had come to EcoBuild, I think, at that stage. And, I went to a few fairs like BAU with them, and they got European funding and were traveling around just trying to expand out of Lithuania into a few other countries. And I ended up being, at that time, the sales network manager, kind of putting the networks together, finding people who could sell in different countries for them. I was on the board for a while. My own company got busy in Finland and I kind of stepped off of the board. And then when I stopped my own company a few years ago, they asked me to join back again and kind of went back into, okay, can you be the sales manager again, network manager? And now I'm kind of doing business stuff with them. A lot of the people we're working with were traditionally eco builders or architects interested in eco design, who just said, I'm in Bulgaria, can I sell your panels there? And we just kind of picked off people who were interested. And now today it's becoming far more professional. We're actually working with professional salespeople or people who have been working with straw for a long time, who have their markets kind of cornered in their countries, and we're training them up now more in a professional sales manner. And the internal capacity of the company has grown. We have a brilliant impact investor who came in 2019, has grown it to a completely different level altogether. And now, we've gone from small extensions, small houses, to 155,000 square meter logistics center in Holland, which has been built at the moment, with 42,000 square meters of our walls being used on the outside of it. It's the biggest logistics center in Europe. We have a 12-story apartment building the roof has just gone on it in Sweden. It'll be finished at the end of this year. All our walls on the outside. We have a 14-story apartment building coming in Holland also. 90 houses coming in Holland. We have, many, many big developments. And many architects' offices from around the world who are the biggest architects' offices, they see the impact that bio-based materials are having on the market, and they've completely changed the way of doing things. So we've taken straw in its traditional natural form and just created something that's more modern and kind of makes sense to, fits into the norms of regulations, and highly tested, highly certified. And that's where we see we can make an impact. Now, we aim to make an impact. Our goal is by 2034, we want to be producing about 1 million square meters of walls a year, which is a big impact, but it's actually a tiny impact on the total amount of square meters of walls being produced in, let's say, Europe, which is about 200,000 or 200 million square meters of walls a year roughly in the UK, just in Europe. So that's not even like 1% if we're producing 1 million square meters a year, which is huge. And that 1 million square meters, we calculated, it opens up to about 25 factories would be needed, and you'd be needing to produce 2 houses a day from each factory. So, if you break it down, it's like, that's not a lot, actually. 1 million square meters is about, 80,000 houses in the whole of Europe. It's actually not a lot.
It's not a lot, is it really?
No. So if you think that just the UK alone needs 80,000 houses a year, that's what the shortages is in most countries. Ireland is the same. It's like we need 80,000 new homes every year. Nobody's able to do that. So
if we look at some of the barriers that we've got, I just want to run through a couple of things really quick. So if I got a lighter and put it to the wall, what would happen?
Basically nothing at the moment. To put it into context, I mean, you'd singe the outside of the wall.
Yeah.
This loose material that's the loose surface of it.
But
Just like wood, it will char.
so no flame, just a bit of
Sin,
a bit of smoke, and
bit of smoke and let it.
fine.
Our latest fire test, which is only about 2 months old, was basically singeing or burning these walls again in a new chamber. We had one membrane on the outside. We reached 45 minutes REI on it, and that's a bare straw wall. It was actually 52 minutes before it fell out of the chamber. Our wall was still intact. It was the actual holding pieces in the chamber that collapsed and fell out.
Okay.
So we reckon we could have got to 60 minutes if they hadn't failed. But of course, that's a fail in the terms.
So what's the science behind? Can you just briefly sum up the science behind why it just doesn't catch fire?
Well, it's the same ingredients as wood. So you're looking at a wood product. It's cellulose based, and it's so compact. I mean, it's 115 kilograms per cubic meter compressed into the wall. So if you just cut a hole in this in the morning to put let's say a ventilation pipe through, you'll fill a 90-liter bucket of straw just with a tiny hole. It's so much straw in there. So you're looking at, I mean, there's a statistic I heard that you need 15 to 17% of air for a wall to catch fire. So that's why the density is so much. And in that same statistic, I heard that, with a highly compressed straw wall, you've only got about between 5 and 10% air. So you're missing that air part. And I suppose a simple way to look at it is if you take one magazine and try to open it up, and you'll burn it easily. And if you take a stack of magazines, you won't burn it. So it's to do with the compression. Plus, straw naturally has silicate around the stem. So it's like, which is a natural fire retardant itself. That's nobody spraying it with anything. That's just natural. So it has its own capacities to withhold that. And then that's just the straw wall. Then you add your materials to it. Add clay, which doesn't burn. It's an A-class fire material, to the inside. Add your wood fiber boards and your membranes. Your membrane makes it airtight. So again, less air going through. And we can get up to 120 minutes both sides fire resistance on it. So that's one key to it being fire resistant. And it's, as I said, it's the same as wood. You will char the outside of it, but maybe a half centimeter in, and then it stops. No. But in the fire regulations, it's still, in all countries, it's still classed as an E fire rating. And this is down to the smouldering effect. And this is something that I know a lot of countries are trying to re-regulate. So they're looking at, why are bio-based materials considered E-class because of the smouldering when we know that they don't burn below this surface. And that's the same with wood, yeah.
So the next question then is, when it comes to just building a normal 2 up, 2 down, or 2 down, 3 up type of property, and then built en masse. So a large developer, is it possible for a large developer just to build these out? Like
100% it is. And we're showing that now in a project currently underway in Holland. It's 89 council houses. So they're basically 2-story or semi-detached homes, all built with EcoCocon. There'll be 40 built this year and 40 built next year. All pre-assembled walls in a pre-assembly factory. So we're shipping our walls to a company there who has a pre-assembly factory, and they're assembling them all into large walls like this, and then lifting those walls in on site. So, which means the speed of build is very, very fast.
How long then does it take to build a single dwelling? So if you're looking at a detached dwelling, if we say 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom.
Yeah, let's say 150 square meter wall surface, you'll have all the walls up in a maximum of 2 days. If it's pre-assembled off-site, that would include the windows, doors, outside material, inside material, everything done, coming dry to the site, pre-assembled with a crane. If it's on-site assembly like we did with this pod, just screwing them together on site. It's pretty much the same time, but then you're having to cope with weather conditions and stuff like that. So there's a difference.
That was going to be my next question in terms of weather. So if it rains quite frequently in these aisles,
yeah.
So can you only install it on a dry day?
In principle, it's good, but I mean, that's the same with any wood material. I mean, we can get deeper into a conversation about that. I mean, it's even the same with concrete and stuff, which...
Yeah, I'm not talking torrential rain. I'm talking like the...
Drizzle is possible to do.
Yeah.
Because if you think again back to farming, You look in the fields and the farmers have all the bales stacked on top of each other and have a little cap on the top of them with maybe a tarp over the top and a kind of roof shape. All of those outside bales are getting wet, but actually it's only the surface and it's kind of running off it.
Because of that compact.
Yes. Now, it's different if it's driving rain because it can get into the center of the wall, which then can become hazardous. But a little drizzle is okay. We don't recommend it still, but it's okay. I've built over 25 houses now in Ireland. Sometimes in November, December, they've been built. The key is, it's getting the wall up because we use the membrane on the outside. It's that this makes it already airtight and weathertight. So you're getting a wall up quickly and you're covering that wall as it's going. So as the build is going up, you're covering it all the time. And if it does, we have weather forecasts in America as good as they are.
They're fairly reliable.
But they're very reliable day by day. So you can actually see what's happening. And, like any other product, I mean, if you're using a wood wall, like a wood framed house, you're still not going to build it in the rain and torrential, and nobody would do it. They'd say, no, we're not working today. It's not possible. It's the same process. So you're looking, and we do get 1 or 2 days or 3 days of good enough weather that you can build in. And it's just being aware. I mean, it can be a longer day that you may need to do. You're not going to check off at 3 o'clock and the walls are not covered. You just have to prepare your crew that this is the way it is. The very big key, the difference with, let's say, timber frame or block or anything is, the key with modular building, and this is modular building, is the process. You put the walls up, you have all your roof material, you're not going to take a break of 2 weeks between putting the walls up and the roof on. You want everything there, and you want to get it covered as quickly as possible. So your 2 up, 2 down, or your council house, in principle, can be weather tight in a week. And that's including windows. And I've done this on site with not such a professional crew, maybe 1 or 2 carpenters, myself, and some helpers. And it's that simple. It can be screwed together really quickly.
So it's not massively resource intensive in terms of manpower on site.
No. I think the way forward, as if you're talking about these bigger developers who are doing these 100 houses at a time and they want to get into this, I think the principle here is to develop in each country with a company where you would have pre-assemble option. And there's many companies now. We're now doing this in about 7 countries already. It's not EcoCocon doing it. We're just facilitating a local company to do this. So the key there then is, we have now, for instance, in Finland, Sweden, Holland, Denmark, France, all of these countries now have pre-assembly option. So we're shipping our elements to pre-assembly companies who are then offering for the full project. We're offering for the walls, the roof, the windows, everything installed, and they're coming and installing on site with this. And this is a really good option for the big developers because they don't want the pre-assembled walls. They just want to buy the pre-assembled walls from somebody else. So this is something that is now developing for us very clearly on the markets. And it's become a very clear point that this is an area where our partners, our long-term partners, see a business opportunity, can develop more housing, can ship it anywhere in the country. We're just starting this with the US partner. He's based in New York and he can't get everywhere in the US. But with a pre-assembled factory, he can now take orders, ship them out and have local people just click everything together. And this is a really viable option.
If someone wants to build a net zero house,
yep,
or what they may determine as a really sustainable house,
yeah,
this ticks a lot of boxes.
Yes.
One of the boxes that I'm interested in just finding out a little bit more is the sound and the air permeability.
Yep.
What types of results can we get in sound and in air permeability in this type of structure?
Oh, the sound one is actually, as you can see, we're sitting in a sound booth, basically. Yeah, well, the regular wall structure that we have is hitting about 54 decibels. We recently did a whole batch of sound tests, acoustic tests, which we can reach now, depending on the various materials, up to 61 decibels, 65 decibels. And we have worked with a really good new product on the market, which is it's EWES, EWES. It's a sound screw with a spring. So it's basically a gyprock screw with a spring on it, but the spring helps the gyprock to move away from the wall a slight bit, creating about 16 decibels more on top of what we're doing. So if somebody was to use, let's say, gyprock finishing on this wall, and they use these screws, then you can reach up to another 16 decibels. But we even surprised ourselves, and we surprised the sound chamber guys in the sound test, because, it's a solid concrete wall where they have this little chamber and they set your wall in, and we actually reached higher decibels, the highest that you can get, which was 65, which means we probably would reach more, and we surpassed what the actual even concrete wall was with this. And so we just have our walls, and we know what the decibels are on them, and they can be minimal. But then when you start to add the different layers to it, we can we can showcase how high we can go. And so very high on the sound. And the air permeability is similar. It's we have concluded that it's similar. It's like we're taking what we have in our walls, and depending on the materials you use to finish your walls, you can reach extremely high levels. So this is a really good thing. Actually, there's been a couple of sound studios built for that reason. And I know, I can't remember the band it is now, but I know in the past, I'm nearly sure it's the Chili Peppers, but I'm not sure. But they built a sound studio from straw as well for this reason. But of course, you're going to put materials on this when you're finishing. Yes. I mean, this is very, very dense. It's a dense sound, So I built a sound studio for a sound artist in Aalto University in Sweden, or in Finland, which is still available at the university today. And they put reed boards on the inside of our walls, and you literally could not hear anything. And we dropped it in the middle of Helsinki, where all the trams and everything else were driving past. Nothing could be heard. And so I think, we reach really good levels. And that's why it's very popular for schools. For instance, we have had the human feedback from schools, from the teachers.
So this is for classrooms, right?
Classroom.
You have
Yes.
classrooms away from other classrooms, but
Everything is just so much the sound. And the teachers come back and say that the students are less, there's less energy. They're like more calm. They're more concentrated. Less distracted. In those classrooms, the lighting was also taken care of. The ceiling sound insulation was taken care of. But it's as we talked at the start, this natural grounding effect, and less tired from the students.
Okay.
So, think about this in an elderly people's home and in a hospital, in these environments where it just makes sense.
So I'm not sure at the moment, Paul, that you have got anywhere in the UK where someone can just come and have a look at an example of a structure, like almost like an innovation park or a demo property or something like that. Have you?
There are, there are, and there were a few places. I know ACAN had, NHBC we're dealing with at the moment. That's the insurance side and certification side. So we're actually aiming to certify with NHBC this year, so that builders and developers can see that it's been certified. There's a lot of the housing estates are being built under NHBC insurance. But there's, I'd need to talk to George, but I think it's NRBC, which is, it was a hub, and our walls of as a room like this was there, and people could come and touch it and see it and stuff. I know ACAN have a lot of our panels and stuff. And again, what I talked about, how we're going to be developing this here in the UK, there is an organization company that we're joining with, and they will have this pod and a couple of other things going to them.
Love it.
And that's coming about Q2 in this year, so Q2 this year. So you will see a large development happening, and fortunately I can't talk about it right now until everything is it's ready. Third training is done and everything is ready to launch. But there's exciting times coming now in the UK. So yeah.
Well, Paul, I've loved speaking to you, and I do love this space. It's really difficult to describe just how you use the word grounding, and I think that it is a really good use of that word to say that the smell, the noise, the feel, everything within this just feels comfortable.
Yeah.
You use the word natural in terms of natural products and natural things, and it feels natural to sit in here. It doesn't feel forced in any way. It doesn't feel uncomfortable in any way. It's lovely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is why I love working with these materials, and for me, it's easy to sell. It's a pleasure to work with a company like this also, who've got a really good the way we work with, their social ethics within the company are also as pure and natural as the product itself. So our values are very important to us, how we do things. And I think you'll find anyone working with these materials, or even the builders who begin to work with them, they don't really want to go back. They start to work with these, they go, can I do this again? Because it's nice, it's easy, it's fast, it's efficient, but it's the material itself catches them. It's fun, So yeah, it's a pleasure also talking, and thanks for choosing us for the pod. It's been, it was a nice connection, I think, with the whole fair for us to do this, and we'd be delighted to do it again and work with you again with your team. It's very cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. Paul, there's going to be people listening to this that will be really interested about learning more and getting closer connected. Now we're going to put a link down at the bottom of the podcast to the website, but can you just give kind of like 2, maybe 3 different actions or different things that people can do just to connect themselves a bit better with EcoCocon and what they're trying to do.
I mean, follow us on the medias and the website. The website is amazing. And we have a new website coming in the summer, which is even going to be more amazing. And we're all over social media. That's generally where most people find us. So that's the easy point. The action that I'd like is education. So for the governments, for the legislators, for the training schools who are training up new carpenters, new tradespeople, just be open to accepting that, there are a lot more materials out there than what we have been taught to use conventionally. And these materials are fantastic. And it's straw, reed, miscanthus, hemp, mice, and there's just so many things out there, clays, limes. But for those educational boards to think about training up these people, because this is the future. This is where we're going, and you want carpenters and tradespeople to be walking onto building sites and not going, oh, what's this? But going, wow, I know this. I did training around this in school, and this is happening in Scandinavia already. So the schools there, it's the law now in Denmark and Finland, Sweden, that you need to train in bio-based materials. And 3, for the customers, for the clients, for the architects, again, opening your mind, but ask the questions now. A prime example is, a normal customer today going into a shop to buy paint, for example, as a simple example, or installations. If they just ask for insulation or just ask for paint, they're going to be given the usuals. But if they ask for an eco paint or a sustainable option, they'll also be given these options because they're there in the stores, just they're not the main product anymore. And by asking that question, you're boosting these to main products. There's more of them going to be sold. There's more information that customers and the sellers will want to talk about it more. And these are just simple actions going forward. And when you see these, open your mind. It's that, as I said, they're here to stay, and you're eventually going to have to see them. And for me, that's the big thing, is teaching kids, building schools with these building decors, showing people that these materials are normal, and get the kids involved. So when they're growing up to build their houses, they're going, oh, I know this material. This was in our school. This is, simple things that we can then boost ourselves forward with these materials. And that will familiarize all of these, because we don't have to be afraid of these. These are solid materials. They're going to last hundreds of years. They're not going anywhere. They've been around for thousands of years. They're just coming back now. And so that would be my kind of advice on all of these. So
thanks for watching to the end. I think that you'll like this, but before you do that, just make sure that you've commented and liked below, and also that you subscribed.